really much forgot when I read this, but I was reading a spy movie. Pero meron din pa po.
Every 26 years. Oh, no, that's okay.
Crisis management, how to give donations, and all of that, based again on the feedback that are given to our members. So this morning we thought that we will discuss a topic that is of special interest to most of us, especially with what has been happening in the country during the last few days. It seems that we're always in crisis. So if you read the newspapers every day, it kind of excites us as we wake up in the morning. So Mr. Stephen Cutler to start our discussions this morning.
Something that I say, make sure that you raise your hand and let me know, and I'll try to recover that point. I get excited about this topic, so sometimes I will speak too quickly. Sometimes my words will flow together. So again, if you don't understand something, let me know and I'll try to recover things. The Corporate Social Responsibility, or CSR, Committee of the American Chamber of Commerce sponsors us this morning, and I appreciate the opportunity to get with you. It sounds kind of funny at first to management is one of those topics. There is no perfection. There is no end state. All of us are trying to get better. The only way to do it, it's like swimming. The only way to do it is to get into the pool and swim, to practice and to learn new things every day. I have what, I did not put it into a slide, but something that I want you to go home with is the concept of Cutler's Rule of Fives. That is, by the time you leave here today, I hope that you've had a chance to meet at least 5 new people. Take their business cards, exchange cards with them. Cutler's Rule of Fives, 5 new people, and then recontact them, establish contact 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months. I'm going to suggest to you, not much. It doesn't really take much to move from one place to another. Blessedly, these pictures were not taken in the Philippines, but they could have been. Labor unrest, political unrest, all sorts of things could have caused us to move from one place to another. And what are we going to do about it? The first thing that I want to talk about a little bit, as far as crises, to get us set, is an earthquake. What happens if we have an earthquake? This, as you may see, is what they call the Richter scale. How do we measure earthquakes? Now, interestingly enough, we're blessed here in Manila that we've not really had really severe earthquakes at that 8-point level. We have had some other earthquakes. In fact, just within the last week, there have been some 5-point and worse earthquakes off of Mindanao. Most of those are off in the ocean, but blessedly, they haven't really caused a whole lot of damage offshore. But you'll see within the last week or two that at the 7 metro area, about 15 million people, we figure as the earthquake happens and immediately after, about 34,000 people are going to be dead. scattered throughout the metro area, probably 20,000 dead later after being trapped and burned, and just a huge number of people injured. Now think about what that means for us as a community. Most of our telecommunications cables will be cut. And I don't really care how good PLDT or Globe is. It's going to take a few days to get those cables put back into order. And they're humans also, which means their families have been disrupted. Some of their workers have been killed, probably. So they're emergency response teams. With Japanese firms who have, the Japanese firms have developed joints within the pipes that as the earth shifts and moves, the pipe moves as well. It's flexible piping. That's really expensive, and it's not there yet. They're working on it. They're looking at it. They're budgeting for it. But because what happens when the bridge collapses and now all of your collapsed building stuff is under the collapsed bridge? I hope that they've taken some steps around that. Frankly, I just don't know. But here's what's relevant in my view. One of the major things that's relevant for us. Government disaster management response, there's just going to be too much. God bless them, but there's just too much. They are only human. Just like with you and I, God only gave them 24 hours in a day. Because when the earth starts to move, I just don't know how that soil is going to react. I think we need to prepare for the worst. So we have many big buildings, and especially the recently built buildings are built to modern standards. Some of the older buildings, not so. Lack of building code coordination and enforcement. We'll talk in a little bit about what happened in Chile. A couple of years ago, they had an 8+ earthquake. 800 people died. It's tragic for those 800 people, the loss of 800 lives. Sons and daughters no longer with us. Productive citizens no longer with us. But on the other hand, it's actually something of a miracle that only 800 died. Out of an 8+ earthquake, it's amazing. It's a miracle. In New Zealand, a couple of weeks ago, a strong earthquake, 7, depending on what reports I've read, either a 7.1 or 7.4 earthquake, and only 2 people were hurt. Now there was some good luck involved in that, which we'll talk about in the next slide or two. Contrast that with Haiti. An earthquake of similar strength to what we saw in Chile, and yet an order of magnitude worse, several orders of magnitude worse in death and destruction. And we're suggesting that one of the reasons for that is the lack of building codes and the lack of forward planning. I think that's where we can influence. We can put pressure, we out of this group in our company can coordinate, and both individually and in coordinated groups, can put pressure on our governments to not only adopt modern building codes, but to enforce modern building codes. And to ensure that builders and real estate agents, lessors, that when we go to look for a building, that they understand that we will pay, we will lease buildings that are safe. We're not going to lease in buildings that are trash, that are going to fall apart. Frankly, it's good. We're going to have to take a look at our accountants and say, look, this is important to us. We've got to spend money on this. But that comes from us. We can influence. It's pretty amazing. But the guy that holds the money, guy being non-gender specific, the guy that holds the wallet and says, I won't give you money unless you do this, has an amazing amount of power. Those of us in this room, if we don't pay for low quality buildings, the building will be improved.
We're also suggesting that the fires in the informal settler areas will spread to our areas. And that's why it's important for us to also pressure and to work with city governments and MMDA and others to try to minimize those informal, what I've heard referred to as squatter areas, because they are a public hazard to all of us. It isn't something that we can just keep at arm's length. When an incident like this happens, those little LPG, the LPG tanks that have the bad connections to them, those things are going to go, fires are going to start, and it's going to come over into our area. Even if we don't have the fire itself burning our property, we've got issues with smoke, with animals and other problems coming out of that area. Recovery time from a major earthquake, I have my doubts if Haiti will ever recover. If they ever do, it's going to take years and years and years. They've got to completely rebuild that society. I think we have an opportunity. If we don't do anything, it's going to take 20 plus years for Metro Manila to come back. And if it takes that long, all of the investment that we've seen, all of the good things that we've seen happen in this area are going to be gone, because business can't take more than just a couple of days to get back online. The way to get businesses back online quick is to build in a recovery, and that takes preparation. This is kind of startling. It's hard to see in this because of the color contrast. It was a 7.1 to 7.4 earthquake, but they were 30 miles from the epicenter, which means that there was some dissipation of the strength of that earthquake by the time it reached Christchurch. Port-au-Prince, 16 miles up in here. In one office that I gave this presentation to, I said, you know, it's a short walk from your building over to the West Valley Mall. Would you go over and take a look at it? You can actually sit up in my office. It's at the Enterprise Center down here at, just up the street, Paseo de Rojas and Ayala Avenue. Out of the glass, we have a glass, one of our sets of offices faces Ayala Avenue on the 36th floor. I can see the West Valley Mall, the area. Port-au-Prince only 16 miles and it's devastated. Ayala Center within well, it's not quite walking distance, but it's almost walking distance. Pretty amazing. Floating around, your pipes are compromised. So Manila Water actually did a really nice job. Once the water started going down, within just a few days, they got tanks of water and water tankers out there to try to help their customers. And when a storm, I mean, look how big that storm is. That thing is huge. Now think about this bus beyond the bus. 2 days ago, a woman walks into a German hospital, shoots the place up and kills, at least I think I read there were 4 people who killed. A couple of weeks ago, a guy walks into the Discovery Channel in Washington, D.C., shoots up the place and kills a couple of people. Think about what that impact on your business. This is where I'm kind of suggesting when you talk about these things with other people. Say, hey, I just heard this incident at the Discovery Channel in Washington. What would you guys do if that happened in your place? A disgruntled employee, someone that sanctions have been applied to, whether they've been fired, whether they've been downsized. Well, the term that I really love is retrenched, because I'm not really sure what that means, but it makes firing sound like we're nice to people. We've destroyed this guy's life. What happens when he comes back and he wants to kill his supervisor, or just take out his anger? Or, just as bad, he doesn't use a rifle, an M16, but he uses this. And he twitters, he tweets negative information about your company. Or he gets online and blogs. That's a crisis, and I would suggest that could be just as damaging to your company as a bullet out of Mendoza's M16. It's not as fancy. It doesn't get headlines. There isn't blood on the walls and blood on the windows.